Now joining us from Côte in Abidjan for the Africa CEOs Forum is Neville Matjie, CEO of Brand South Africa. Good evening, Neville. Thank you very much for joining us on the late edition. So this forum is the continent's largest annual event dedicated to the private sector, of course, bringing together business leaders, investors, policymakers, and generally influential figures. Now, for the benefit of those who might still not have an appreciation of its significance, please talk us through it.
Good evening, and thank you very much for hosting me this evening. Yes, most certainly the Africa CEO Forum is one of the biggest, in fact, the biggest event right here in West Africa. It has attracted a number of CEOs, not only within the African continent, but also globally, who are looking at investing within the continent and looking at opportunities. Every year it has been run right here in Abidjan, except 1 year where it went to Rwanda. And the intent really is to maximize on showcasing the opportunities within the continent. This year's theme is specifically focusing on the private-public partnership and seeing how best to integrate the private sector investing into government infrastructure projects within the continent. And that in itself also been driven by new opportunities such as AI and AI in government, which has been a big topic today, including energy and infrastructure projects. So those have been the critical areas that have been driven for today in the session. Tomorrow, we will be hosting a Invest in South Africa session, which will be led by Minister Ramokgopa, including Deputy Minister from the Trade, Industry and Competition, where we'll be showcasing opportunities within South Africa. We're partnered by RMB, who have really come to the party in terms of showcasing financial instruments, as well as showcasing the agenda around B20. So you would have noticed President Ramaphosa's drive really and leading the delegation here today has been specifically focusing on G20 and South Africa's presidency within the G20, including the support for the investment drive for South Africa.
So essentially, as Team South Africa, how are you positioning us, or better phrase, what is the message that you are delivering there?
Yeah, so we focused predominantly on the investment side. Hence, it was critical for us to then focus on the Invest in SA component. But within that has been a seamless integration between what the private sector would want and how they would want to invest within opportunities. So our main focus in terms of that investment drive and the messaging echoing is basically to showcase the opportunities, to showcase South Africa's competitiveness, and to really showcase the fact that South Africa is open to do business, and particularly focused on its ability to attract new investors. So we're basically putting our best foot forward as a nation. So part of the panels that we will be having and some of the industries that are here really come from the big multinationals who are in South Africa. Some of the big South African companies such as MTN and, as I've indicated earlier, RMB and the likes, who are here in Côte d'Ivoire. And what they are seeking to do is really to showcase how they're supporting the government in creating jobs within South Africa and how they are also taking on opportunities. We have an investment booklet as well that that is really led through the Department of Trade and Industry through Invest SA, which has a whole list of packaged projects and opportunities within South Africa that we're using to really entice investors who are keen on projects. But the biggest appetite has really been in terms of energy and infrastructure. Most of the meetings that were held today have been predominantly focused on those two sectors, including the maritime sector, because there is a huge drive in terms of connectivity within the continent and to ease the transportation. Wamkele Mene was also here from from the Secretary General, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, who is driving the intra-Africa trade. And from the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we are really pushing the drive for Africa must do business with Africa. And that has been the key messaging that we've been driving.
And you've also touched on, speaking on the African Continental Free Trade Area, as you say, that this will be the panel discussion around dividends through regional value chains and public-private partnerships. When we speak of that, you've touched already on the connectivity issue, because it's always the conversation that in as much as we have this free trade area agreement, many commentators still say that we as a continent are not fully realizing the potential of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, purely because of the many challenges, and among them being the connectivity on the continent.
That's quite correct. And that's one of the critical areas. In fact, tomorrow in particular, there'll be a huge drive around connectivity. But connectivity is really divided into three forms. There's the connectivity in terms of our internet and Wi-Fi and infrastructure within the continent. The second is the movement of goods and cargo. And that movement of goods and cargo is really focused on both the borders and the ability for the borders to receive cargo and to reduce delays, including the seas. And then the third one is really the air connectivity, because it's quite, even coming to Côte d'Ivoire, it was quite a bit of a challenge. You've got to either fly through Kenya or through Ethiopia, or actually leave the continent before you actually come back into Côte d'Ivoire. So that is quite critical. You've got to be able to move goods and people in an effective way within the continent. So those are the three critical areas that have been driven, and most of the discussions, particularly tomorrow, will be focusing on those three areas.
Honestly, still quite disheartening that sometimes you have to leave the continent to go somewhere else, just a neighboring country. It's quite problematic, but as you say, these will be the discussions that are had around connectivity as well as infrastructure and energy. Neville, thank you very much for talking to us this evening. That is Neville Matjie, CEO of Brand South Africa, speaking to us from Côte d'Ivoire in Abidjan for the Africa CEOs Forum that's taking place.